Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Today we're up to Daf Mem. We're going to start from Daf Lamed Tes on the bottom, 12 lines from the bottom. Tanan. Just a brief review. Yesterday we learned about a machloikis between Rav and Shmuel by Moide B'Miktzas. Mishnah says that the original claim is Shtei Kesef. The Kfira isn't mentioned in the Mishnah. The Haidah is a Shava Pruta. So the Shaila is, how much does the Kfira, the lie, the denial have to be on? Rav says it has to be on Shtei Kesef, and Shmuel says it could even be on a Pruta. So now the Gemara is going to try to bring a raya to Rav from our Mishnah that in order to be Chai V'Shmuel Moide B'Miktzas, you have to be Moide on a Pruta, but Kfira, the Kfira has to happen on Shtei Kesef, just like the original claim. Says the Gemara, Tanan, Shtei Kesef Yesh Li B'Yadcha. The Mishnah says, a guy approaches his friend and says, you owe me Shtei Kesef, and he responds, Ein L'cha B'Yadi L'Pruta. No, I only owe you a Pruta. Potter, he's Potter from a Shevuos. So the Gemara understands, my taima, why is he Potter from a Shevuos? Lab Mishem D'Chaser L'Taina. Don't you think the reason is because the Taina's Kfira of the Loiva is on less than Shtei Kesef. And according to Rav, in order to be Chayiv in a Shevuos of Moide B'Miktzas, you have to have a Kfira of Shtei Kesef. Tiyufta the Shmuel, it's a Kasha on Shmuel. Omar Lach Shmuel, says the Gemara, Shmuel tell you, nah, Misarvet Shavik Tani. You think that the Mishnah is talking about Shavik Kesef? Dafkik Tani. The guy's being Teveya silver, Kesef Yesh Li B'Yadcha. And the Loiva is being moida on copper. Pruta is made out of copper. So Mamela, Mashatana Loidana, Mashad Loitana. So it's not Meminataina. So it's a different P'tur altogether. It's nothing to do with the P'tur because the Kfir wasn't on Shtei Kesef like Rav. The reason why you're Potter in a Shevuos of Moide B'Miktzas is because it's not Meminataina. Right? Tana Chitim, Hoidele B'Sa'orim. It's Potter. Except according to Gamliel, but you're Potter. So the Gemara says, Ihachi, if we're talking about dafka, in other words, the material of silver versus the material of copper, aim a seifa. Now you have to be consistent in the whole Mishnah. Look at the seifa of the Mishnah. Shtei kesef pruti yesh li b'yadcha. The teveya, the malvis taining I gave you, I lent you. Shtei kesef and the pruta. And he responds, the Levi says, in l'cha b'yadei la pruta chayev, he's chayev shvua, iyam v'shlem is shove, if you talk about shove kesef. So it's all one, right? It's just the value of kesef. So that's min ataina. Mishamachi chayiv, that's why he's chayiv, because Lamaisi is moide b'minataina, it's moide b'miktzas, he's chayiv, Eli Amar Dafka, but if you're going to tell me the Mishnah is talking about Dafka, which means that the guy's being teveya kesef, and he's admitting to a pruta, amai chayiv, mashatana loida, mashlelatana, it's not b'minataina. And says the Gemara, midu time el Shmuel, this kash is according to Shmuel, right? And Shmuel is the one who says that the Mishnah is Dafka. This is equivalent to a case of not Tanachitin v'hoidele b'sa'ayrin. It's Tanachitin usa'ayrin. The Mishnah is talking about, he said, you owe me Shtei Kesef upruta. So it's a package deal. So if he's moida on a pruta, then it's considered memina taina because the pruta was included in the original taina, and therefore he's chayiv on a shuva of a moida b'miktzas. And this is also a svara to say like this in the Mishnah, that we're not talking about shavik kesef, we're talking about dafka. Why? You see in the Mishnah says, litras of Yesh Li B'Yadcha, guy says, you owe me a litra, which is a weight, a measurement of gold, Ein L'cha B'Yad litra kesef. And the guy responds, no, it's only silver. Potter. He's Potter from a Shevuos. It's not considered a Moide B'Miktzas. If you're going to tell me it's dafka, which means the Tevei is saying, I have gold by you, and the guy is Moide on silver, then I understand, Mishmachi Potter. Why? Because not Meminataina. He wants gold and he's admitting to silver. Eliyam at Shava, but if you're going to say like Rav, the Mishnah is talking about Shava Kesef, Amai Potter, Litra Tuva Havi, even according to Rav, should be Chayev. You know why? Because being Moida to a Litra, whether it's gold or silver, is definitely Aidah and the Kfira, both. A Kfira of Litra Zav and Aidah of Litra Kesef has a Kfira and Aidah of more than Shtei Kesef. So according to Rav, should be Chayev. Why is he Potter? Elam with the Seifa Dafka, so what are you going to tell me? So the Seifa is talking about Dafka, that's why your Potter goes Nami Minataina, Reisha Nami Dafka. So it must be the Reisha is also Dafka. Leimatav Tiyufta, the Rav. So Bazoy, it's a Kasha on Rav. Because one thing is certain, we have to be consistent in the Mishnah. If you find one case in the Mishnah is talking about Dafka, we have to assume the whole Mishnah is talking about Dafka. If you find one case in the Mishnah is talking about Shava, the whole thing has to be talking about Shava. So here, from the Seifa, by Litra Zav, Litra Kesef, it's certainly talking about Dafka. That's why it's potter, because now I'm in a taina. There's no other way to explain why you should be potter there. So Bazoy, if that's why you're potter, because now I'm in a taina, so the ratio is also because now I'm in a taina, and that's why you're potter. It's a kasha on Rav. Amalach Rav, no. Kul mastis and shava. No. Avad, the whole mission is talking about shava kesef. And that's why you're chayiv, or at least you should be chayiv. unless it's not a kfir of shtei kesef. V'litra zav shani. You found me this case in the Mishnah where it's talking about dafka. You're right. This is very different because he never mentioned any matbeyas over here. He just mentioned a weight. So whenever he mentions litra, a litra zav, a litra of a certain metal, then avada he means dafka. Teida, I'll bring you a raya. The Ketani Sefer Dinner Zav Libi Yatcha. The Sefer the Mishnah says, another case. Guy says, Dinner Zav Libi Yatcha, you owe me a dinner zav. And the Nitba, the alleged loiva, says, Ein chob yodil, dinner kesav a trace of punyan pruta. He's moided to all kinds of different prutas. Chayev, he's chayev a shvuah, because a moided makes us. It's not meminatayna. Says the Mishnah, no, kol min matbeya achasen. It's all meminatayna. Hagam, the claim was for a dinner zav, gold, a gold coin, and he admitted to a kesef or traces or pindian or nechayshus or pruta. Still, he's chayev al shvuah moed b'miktzas is considered minatayna shakol min matbeya achasen. All coins, right? If I say you owe me $1, you say only owe you a quarter. Quarter is silver, right? Whatever silver it has, or a penny, which is copper. Right now they're stopping to make the pennies because every cent costs really 2 cents, 5 cents to make. Anyway, so min matbeya achas, it's all one min. If we're talking about shove kesef. Right? Doesn't matter what kind of metal it's made out of. It's shava kesef we're dealing with. Eliyam dafka. But if you're going to tell me it's mamish dafka, my chayiv. Why is he chayiv? He is claiming zav. You're being moida. You're admitting kesef for nechayshus. So it's not minatayim. So it must be avada from this last case of the Mishnah that Rav brings. You see, it's megala on the whole Mishnah that it's all talking about shava kesef and litra zav. The case of litra zav, that's different. Amar Rabbi Lazar. So Rabbi Lazar says no. You can't ask a kasha from that case on Shmuel and prove that it's Shavah Kesef. You know why? Over there, you'd still be chayiv, even though it's dafka. It's not Shavah Kesef dafka. Why? Because b'sheta'onoi b'dinner matbeyas. The guy tained, you owe me dinner matbeyas. In other words, the dafka isn't on the metal, on the specific metal that he's claiming. The dafka is on dinner matbeyas, on coins that have a tzura on it, right? That have a stamped shape. Image on the coin, and Mamela, since that's the claim, the dafka of the claim is going on dinner matbeyas, so as long as you're moida bichlal that claim, which is pundyan, traces, prut of nechayshus, it's all called memenatayna. The kamash malan, and the big chiddush over here is the pruta bichlal matbeya isa. There's a chiddush that even a pruta is also a memenatayna because it's also considered, it's also called a matbeya. There are a couple of pshatim in the Rishonim. Why would I think a pruta is not a matbeya? Oh, because it's a penny, because it's the lowest level currency. So the Rashba says the reason is because a pruta was so cheap, taka, they didn't even put an image on it. So I would think if he's claiming dinner matbeyas, maybe pruta is taka not bechlal matbeya because it doesn't have a tzura, machmas katnusa. So the chiddush is no, that also is considered a dinner matbeya. The Ritva says it a little differently. The Ritva says because the pruta, since it's made of a nechayshus, it erodes a lot faster than silver, than any other metal. And Mamela, it's not always, very used prutas don't always have a tzura, so I would think that it's not included in dinner matbeyas. Okay, so that's the chiddush. But Akalpanim, Shmuel will tell you the case of dinner zav libiyatcha, the guy admits the punyan traces in a chayshes, a pruta. That is talking about dafka dinner matbeyas. Not makban in the metal so much as it's dinner matbeyas. Ekamashma the pruta b'chal matbeya isa. Daikenami diktoni shakoil min matbeya achas. So Mishnah Mamash, the Mishnah is saying the reason why it's a tvia and a haidah minatayna because it's all matbeyas, min matbeya achas. The Rav, so how's Rav going to counter that teretz of Rabbi Lazar according to Shmuel on the Mishnah? Right? Rav wanted to prove from this case that it's all shavah kesef. But Rabbi Lazar says, Pshat and Shmuel, no, it's not because it's all shavah kesef. Really, we're dealing with dafka. But the dafka is going on dinner matbeyas. Says Rav, v'Rav shakoil din matbeya achas. All the matbeyas that are shnuyos in the Mishnah, in this case, traces, pundian, pruta, and dinner, all have one din. They all have the same halacha, which is that you need a shiur, which is a pruta, to be mechuyev on a Shevuos moed b'miktzas. Right? Even a pruta qualifies for that. Rabbi Lazar, Leiman b'deseifa k'shmuel mataretz reisha nami k'shmuel svirulei. So according to Rabbi Lazar, he's coming to the defense of Shmuel in the Sefer and explains Shmuel, the last case of Dinner Zov Leviyotcha, and he says, I only have Kesef Traces, Pundian, and Pruto, sounds like he holds like Shmuel, even in the Reisha. Reisha Namika Shmuel Svirle, and he's going to hold like Shmuel in the Reisha. In La Halacha, he's going to hold that you don't need a Kfir of Shtei Kesef. Gemara says, Loi. Sefer Dafka Diktani Shekol Min Matbei Achas. He's Mataritz Shmuel in the Sefer. He's saying Shmuel's not Shref in the Sefer because the Mishnah, the Lashna Mishnah, is Shekol Min Matbei Achas, which means that the Tvi and the Ida is on Matbei's Dafka and not on the Shava, not on the Shava Kesef. The Reisha, Karavi Kishmol, could be Oy Karavi Kishmol, could be either one. So we don't know from the fact that Rabbi Elazar jumps to Shmuel's defense in the Sefer that he holds like Shmuel in the Reisha. No Raya. Okay, another Raya, perhaps, to Rav, who holds that you need a Kfir of Shtei Kesev by a Moedim Mixas, Tichai V'Shimon a Moedim Mixas, from the following Brisa. Toshima, Diner Zohov, Zohuv Libiyatcha. Zohov means coin with an imprint, right, with a tzura. So Teveya says, legend Malva says, I lent you a dinner with an imprint, Zohov, a gold dinner with a tzura that I lent you. En Chabiyad dinner Kesef. He says, no, it was only silver, right, a dinner Kesef. Chayev is chayev because the Ida is considered Lamina Taina. Taima, the reason why he's chayev the Omer Le Zohov Zohov, it's only because, right, why do we say his intention is to claim the Matbeya Dafka, not Shavak Kesef? Because he said in his Lashon, Zohov Zohov, Hastama, but if he didn't say the extra word Zohov, he just said Dinner Zohov. Right, Shavaka Armalei. So what do you see from here? That any time a guy makes a claim, stoma, dinner zahav, without specifying and being specific about zahuv, the matbeya, then he means shavak kesef. So the Rav is right in how he's mefarish the Mishnah. That it's all shavak kesef, and the reason why he's potter because there's no kfira on shtei kesef. Amar Vashi Yochika Amar says the Gemara, no. Truth is that it's not the pshat in the Brisa that he said Zohov Zohuv. He didn't say Zohov Zohuv. Brisa is saying Kala Oimer Dinner Zohov. Anyone who says Stam Dinner Zohov, Ki Ilu Oimer Dinner Zohov Zohov Dami. It's like he's saying Zohov Zohuv and his kavanas for matbeya of a dinner. So Gemara says, finally, the last raya to Rav, Tani Reb Chia l'seyueh l'Rav, Sela li biyadcha. Guy says, I have a sela. Ein l'cha biyadi ela sela chaser shtei kesef, right? 2 mois kesef, right? In other words, he's denying him. There's 24 mo in a sela. So if a guy says, you owe me a sela, that's 24 mo. So if he says, no, I only owe you sela chaser shtei kesef, means I only owe you 22. He's denying him shtei kesef, the last two. Chayv is chayv shua. Why? Because he's koifer b'shtei kesef. That's Rav. Right? It has to be a kfir of shtei kesef. But if he says chaser ma'a, right? If his denial, the kfir is on less than shtei kesef, only a ma'a, then he's potter from a shvua. Because he has to be koifer b'shtei kesef, shtei ma'as kesef. So you see, mamish a raya to Rav. It seems that even though Machloikes Rav and Shmuel, Hilchas K'Shmuel b'Mamayna, K'Rav b'Yisuri. How do I remember that? Because Rav has a Reish, Isser has a Reish, and Mammon has a Mem, Shmuel has a Mem. So Mammon is Shmuel and Rav is Isser. Question is this called Isser or Kesef? We're talking about Chiyuv Shvuah, yeah? On a Sugya of Kesef. On a monetary claim. So how do you Heichel Adaina Daina Laidina? Machlokas Rav and Shmuel, who do you pass like? So here we certainly have a brisa backing Rav, and we see that the Gemara constantly tried to bring rayas to Rav. So Taka the Rishonim and Shulchan Aruch, we pass like Rav, that in order to be Chai v'Shuvah to be Miktas Minatayra, you have to have not just a Hidah v'Shava Pruta, you also have to have a Kfir of Shtei Kesef. Okay, Zug Gemara weiter. Amar v'Nachum v'Yitzchak v'Shmuel, Lo Yishana b'Tanas Malva v'Hidah Loiva. When do you need that the original claim, let's go back to the original claim, when the Malva, the Teveya comes and says, you owe me money, the original claim has to be at least on Shtei Kesef. When do we need that? It's only between a Malva and a Loiva. For a Moed and a Miktsas, Malva has to claim, you owe me Shtei Kesef, Loiva is Moed and a Pruta, whether he's Koifer Shtei Kesef or not, Mechlekes Rav and Shmuel, but Akapanim, the original claim has to be Shtei Kesef. That's the halach of Malva Loiva. But Tainus Malva Hadas Eid Echad. Afilu Tonal Bapruta Chai. But to make a Shevuos when the malva brings an eid echad, that doesn't need shtei kesef. Even if the malva says you owe me a pruta, and the guy denies or lies about it, and the malva has a eid echad to back him up, that's a different kind of shvuah. Shevuos eid echad. Now the lev has to swear against eid echad. So there, the original claim doesn't have to be shtei kesef. Ela bepruta chayiv. Even if the guy claimed you owe me a pruta and you're makrish a pruta, the eid echad is mechayiv yeshua. My time d'chsev l'yokom eid echad beish l'chol oven al cholchatos, v'chol oven al cholchatos hu de'enoi kam. Right? Can't be mechayiv, and eid echad can't be mechayiv oinish haguf or a chiyiv mammon. Avol kam hu l'shvuah. But avada, you can be mechayiv somebody a shvuah, and v'tanya kol mokim sheshnayim mechayiv enoisei. Whatever two eidim can be mechayiv somebody, mammon, when it comes to mammon, eid echad, and eid echad can be mechayiv you a shvuah, mechayiv a shvuah. So that's even on a chiyav pruta. Okay? V'omer v'nachal ben Shmuel, another din when it comes to shvuah moedim b'miktzas, to noichitin es oirin. If the original claim, the teveya, is teveya two items. One is wheat and one is barley, together, man, and the guy only admitted in one of them, chayev, it's shvuah moedim b'miktzas. It's called memin atayna. Omolei Rabbi Yitzchak yishar, v'chein omer Rabbi Yochanan. You said beautifully, gewaldig. Yeah? V'chein omer Rabbi Yochanan, mechavan to Rabbi Yochanan, de'ele gamer Rabbi Yochanan. Asks the Gemara, mechalal de palagar le Rish Lakish. If he says v'chein omer Rabbi Yochanan, and he didn't mention Rish Lakish, they were inseparable, Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. Mashma Rish Lakish is cholik bedover zeh? Could it be? So the Gemara says, Iked Amri, Misha have a shoyle v'shasikle. The Rish Lakish waited quietly until Rabbi Yochanan said over this halacha, and before he was able to finish, Rabbi Yitzchak walked out, and he didn't hear what Rish Lakish said, so therefore he didn't mention his name. He wasn't sure if Rish Lakish was chaylik or not. Iked Amri, Mishta v'shasikle. Rish Lakish was in the middle of drinking water in the Bismedrish when Rabbi Yochanan was saying this halacha, so therefore he was shaisik and water in his mouth. And meanwhile, Rabbi Yitzchak left after hearing the halacha, and he didn't hear Rish Lakish's response, whether he's chaylik or not. That's why he only mentions Rabbi Yochanan. I'll bring you a raya to what you just said, what Shmuel just said. And Rabbi Yochanan, according to Rabbi Yitzchak, agreed. The Mishnah says, if you ask for chitim, you claim was chitim, and the guy was moed so in a completely different item, he's potter, Taima. The reason why you're potter according to Tanakam is because it's not min atayna, right? But if it would have been chitin us in the original claim, you only moed on one, then you'd be chayiv. So you see, Mamash a right to Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan. Gemara says, "Loi, no, it's not a right. Who had done the fil chitin soir nami potter? Really, you're potter, even if the original claim was chitin soir and you're more than one. The reason why he's chaylik on chitin, loi diacho koichoi the Rabban Gamliel. It's because the bigger chiddush, Gamliel says, you're chayiv a shvuah by the b'miktzas, even if it's b'chlal not min atayna. It's a bigger chiddush. That's where we chap on chitin v'hoid l'b'soir. Toshama, ta'ona kelim v'kakoyes. The Mishnah says, guy makes a claim against you. You owe me kelim and kakoyes. Hoide b'kelim v'kakoyes. You're moide b'kelim and you're koyf in the kakoyes. Or b'kakoyes v'kakoyes b'kelim. Or the kakoyes and you're koyf b'kelim. Potter, you don't have to swear. Why? It's not min atayna. Hoide b'miktzas kakoyes potter. Even if you're moide in the miktzas kakoyes, you're potter. Why? Because we're not mechuyev shvuah on the kakoyes. And b'miktzas kelim chayiv, then you're chayiv even on the kakoyes. Time at the kelim the kakoyes. The Mishnah's pattering you in a case where the original claim was kelim and kakoyes, you're moed on one. But why the karka labas shavuah? Because karka is not a bas shavuah. But a kelim do be the kelim and kakoyes. But if you had a parallel case to kelim and kakoyes in kelim and kelim, then chayiv be chayiv. If you're moed on one kelim and not the other, right? So that's a riot to Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan that says chitna sa'oyer and yehoid lebe'echad ben you're chayiv. Gemara says no. Who didn't feel kelim nami potter? Really, you're potter there too. Why is the Mishnah only focused on kelim kakoyes? Well, kelim kakoyes, kamash malon. The choid b'miktzas kelim chayiv afal kakoyes. There's a besundere chiddush over there by kakoyes. You know why? Usually you don't make a shvuah on kakoyes. But if the guy claimed kelim and kakoyes, you're moide b'miktzas kelim. Now you're moide b'miktzas on the kelim itself. Now there's a halach of zoikikin of gilgul shvuah. Now I can also make a swear in kakoyes, which usually I can't if it just would have been kakoyes alone. Mar says, "My kamash malon zoikikin." That's the chiddush of our Mishnah, that zoikikin. They can be megalgal shavuah kakoyes. Once you swear on the kelim on moed b'miktzas, Moses Tanina, it's a Mishnah kedushin. Zoikikin es an achas v'shef nachais l'shov alein. It's mamash a chiddush. It's a chiddush ready in kedushin. You don't have to mechadesh it again over here. Says the Gemara, no. Ha ikar. You have to know where the chiddush was mentioned. Over here is the ikar. This is the ikar chiddush of Gilgal Shvuah, right here in Shevuos. Hahi mesechta kedushin agav grora nasba. There's just another chiddush over there because over there the Mishnah mentions karka. she'ein len achrayis niknin b'nechosim sheyesh len achrayis. Not karka. Nechosim she'ein achrayis. So the Gemara says over there. The Mishnah says also chiddush of zoikin of Gilgal Shvuah. Okay. So far we do not have a raya from our Mishnah to this chiddush of Shmuel. Okay. And Rabbi Yitzchak b'shem Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Chibar Abba Rabbi Yochanan Tonach in the Sar V'od L'Ba'achas Men Potter. Rabbi Chibar Abba in the name of Rabbi Yochanan said the opposite. He says original claim has both chitin and sayir, and you're only moed on one. You're Potter. It's not Meminatayna. Where's the Valmer Rabbi Yitzchak? Yishar v'chein Rabbi Yochanan. What do you mean? Rabbi Yitzchak said b'shem Rabbi Yochanan that Rabbi Yochanan had mitzis chayiv. How can you tell me b'shem Rabbi Chibar Abba b'shem Rabbi Yochanan that's Potter? Where's the Amiroyin and only with Rabbi Yochanan? Nish the ershta mol you'll have Amiroyin being cholik in the divrei Rabbam, in the Rebbe's words. So Imam Hashem Machloikas Alib Rabbi Yochanan between Amiroyim, between Rabbi Rabbi and Rabbi Yitzchak. What Rabbi Yochanan actually said in the halacha of Ton Echitin B'Sa'orin v'Hoydla B'Achad Man, whether he's Chayiv or Potter. So the Gemara is going to ask right now, Rabbi Rabbi Hashem Rabbi Yochanan, the same mamish, the same rayas we tried to bring earlier. We're just going to repeat the whole Gemara as questions on Rabbi Rabbi and Rabbi Yochanan, and we're going to answer the same two rotzim. So it's super easy. Toshama Ton Echitin B'Sa'orin Potter. Rabbi Yoel Mechayev Time Ton Echitin B'Sa'orin. Only Potter because Tanachid V'Adam Sayrin. Hachitna Sa'orin V'Hoyd Lebechad Men Chayev. If the original claim would have been on both, and you would have admitted on one, then you're Chayev Shvuah. That's not like Rabbi Rabbi and Rabbi Yochanan. Gemara says no. Who didn't feel Hachitna Sa'orin Nami Potter? V'Haydik Tani Hacha. Reason why we're focused on a case of just chitin, where the claim was just chitin, he's made the just and Sa'orin. That's La De'acha Koichet Gamliel. That even in such a case where it's mamish b'chlal not shaykh to the original claim was only chitin, you're made in Sa'orin. Gamliel says that you're Chayev Shvuah because you don't even mean a tiny b'chlal. Toshama, another Gashon Rabbi Chibar Abba b'shem Rabbi Yochanan from the Mishnah. Ta'onah kelim v'kakois v'od v'kelim v'kor v'kakois. Kakois v'kor v'kelim Potter, right? If the guy original claim says you owe me kelim and kakois, and he is koifer either on the kelim or the kakois, you're Potter. It's not called a moed miktas. Why not? Because it's l'chayra not memenatayin. Hoydu miktas karka Potter is also Potter because ein nishboin al kakois al kfiras. Karkois, the miktas kelim chayiv, then he's chayiv even on the karkois, but then Gilgal Shvuah. Remember, says time in the kelim karkois. The reason why he's Potter is because the original claim was kelim and karkois, and karka labas shvuah, and you can't swear on karka. But a kelim dumi the kelim karkois. You had a parallel case, which is two separate kinds of kelim, dumi like kelim karkois, chayiv v'chayiv. That's not like Chibar Rabbi Shem Rabbi Yochanan. Gemara says no. I didn't feel a kelim nami Potter. Truth is no. Even there he's Potter. Why are you chapping like a kois? So kamash malon. The hoyd the miktas kelim chayiv aval like a kois. If you moed the miktas kelim, now you chayiv the shvuah the moed the miktas in the kelim. So now there's gilgal shvuah on the kois as well. Gemara says my kamash malon zoykikin tanina. It's a mishnah kedushin zoyk neschav shesh nachayis l'shav alein. Gemara says ha ikir hayagav groinas. But no, here's the ikir chiddush. Eisvei Rabbi Rabbi Chibar Abba. Nocha kasha Rabbi Chibar Abba b'shem Rabbi Yochanan, who said that chitin is sa'orin in the original claim, and the guy's moed on one of them, he's Potter from a shvuah. Kash from the following braysa. To'onish shor void lebeseh, seh void lebeshor. Right, the original claim was either a shor and you're moed on a seh, or vice versa. Potter is Potter because not moving a taina. To'onish b'shor viseh, if his original claim included both, an ox and the sheep, void lebechad men chayiv. Then you're chayiv. Mamash is steer to Rabbi B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan. That's mamash the case of chitin is sa'orin, void lebechad men. Shor viseh, void lebechad men, he's chayiv. Nah, you ask me about Bryce, that's from Gamliel. Gamliel always holds. You never need Minatayna. So why in the ratio where it's Tone Shor, he's Potter, that never requires a Minatayna? Who cares if it's Tone Shor V'seh or Tone Shor V'hoydel Elohomani Adman. It's not from Gamliel, you're right. It's Admain. Don't think I'm just pushing you off. This is mamish. Rabbi Yochanan used to quote this brisa, and he used to say, "Homani, Admani." This is Adman. It's a particular Tanam who holds like that. But Rabbi B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan said Rabbi Yochanan did not agree with this, and he held that Tone Shor V'seh or Tone Chitna Sa'orin V'Hoyd Lebechad Men, he'd be Potter. Omar and Rav Onan Omar Shmuel Tone Chitna V'Kodam V'Hoyd Lebesa'orin. Yeah, a guy comes to Bez and he says, "Hey, you owe me chitim," and he's about to say Sa'orin, right? And before the guy could say Sa'orin, the nitba jumps the gun and says, "I only owe you Sa'orin." So now, according to Nakama, according to Rabbi Shem Rabbi Yochanan, it's not Minatayna. We cut him off in the middle, and it was not Minatayna. So l'chayr would be Potter from Shvuah, right? So the Gemara says, not so fast. Im kamarim, if it seems like he jumped the gun to avoid swearing, because he let the Tiveya finish a sentence, and he would have said chitin usa oirin, and he would have been moided to sa'ir, and he would have been a moided b'mikzas. He didn't want that to happen, so he jumped the gun before the tvei could say sa'irin. That's kamarim, and he's chayiv. Taka, we force him to swear. The imbe miskaven, but Taka, you see, he thought that the tvei was done, maybe whatever, and he's mamish innocent, he's sincere. Yeah, he didn't jump the gun. He didn't look like he jumped the gun. Then he's potter. V'omar Rav Onan Amar Shmuel to onishtei mechatin v'hoydaloi ba'achas man. If you have two kalim, two mechatin, two types of kalim, yeah, and he admitted to one, chayiv lefikach yatzu kalim, and this is why this is unique to kalim. That's why the Torah says kesef oy kalim lishmar. Why is kalim not bechlal shava kesef? Teretz is because the Torah wants to tell you lamashahen that you're chayiv a shavu on kalim even if they're not shava shtei kesef. Right. So the Mishnah says by the teveya, the original claim has to be shava, it has to be shtei kesef, at least shtei kesef. That's not by kalim. That's Rav Onan Amar Shmuel's chiddush. Omar Rav Papa to onoi kalim bepruto. V'hoida b'kelim, v'kafir b'prutam, potter. If he's moida on the kelim, but he's kafir on the pruta, he's potter meshua. Hoida b'pruta v'kafir b'kelim, chayiv, then he's chayiv meshua. So what are these two halachas? Chode karav, v'chode k'shmul. Chode karav, kfiras tayna shtei kesef. It has to be shtei kesef. In order to be chayiv meshua, you also have to be kafir shtei kesef. That's why, if you're moida on the kelim and you kafir a pruta, you'll be potter, because you only kafir a pruta. According to Rav, you need a kfir shtei kesef. V'choda, and the second halacha is kishmul. The Omar tanachit nesa'oirin v'hoid lebachas men chayiv. He's chayiv, and that's why if he's hoid bepruta v'kafar b'kelim, he's still chayiv shvua. Why? Because the original claim contained both. Okay, stop over here. Shkoyach.